What's going on, everyone? I hope you are all having an incredible day. And today we're going to talk about tinnitus myths, and we're going to debunk a lot of tinnitus myths. There is a lot of disinformation out there, and a lot of that disinformation drives people's perpetual state of anxiety and depression when it comes to tinnitus. So it is my hope to bring you solid, true information to cut through a lot of this disinformation. Before I start, I wanted to let you all know that I do apologize if I can't get to everyone's comments. I'm doing my best to get to everyone's comments, but a lot of times it's hard for me to stay focused, but I am going to try and get to as many of those comments as I possibly can. Thank you all for supporting the channel. This has grown into something that I did not even expect when I first posted my first video, but it's been an incredible journey. I also want to let you know I am thinking about attempting to go on tour. I would like to bring this, my music, to you all, depending on where you're at. I live in Tennessee, so I would probably be doing the East Coast predominantly to start. But comment below if you'd like to, come see me play live. You could support a tinnitus musician, and I could meet you all. That would be my goal, would be to try to talk to each and every single one of you at the show. If that's something you're interested in, please let me know, because it is one of my dreams to bring my music on tour. With all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So the first myth that I want to tackle is that there is nothing that you can do about your tinnitus. This is a myth, and this is commonly said by doctors that really don't have any specialty in tinnitus. Well, there is nothing that you can do to control the sound immediately. There is a ton of stuff you can do to get yourself back to living life. They don't tell you this in the doctor's office when you're first diagnosed, because I don't believe they even know this. Tinnitus and being able to do something about it in habituation, all these recent discoveries, is new information that just a lot of doctors have no idea. That's why I'm making these videos. It says if you're a doctor, your physician who's watching this, don't just tell your patients there's nothing that can be done. There is a ton of stuff that can be done. There is nothing medically, there's no pill that can be given to you to directly stop or control the sound, but that doesn't mean there's nothing that can be done. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, there's tinnitus retraining therapy, there's sound masking, there's meditation, there's yoga, there's reframing, there's progressive muscle relaxation. There's tons of stuff that can be done. This is probably one of the most treatable conditions, I would say, considering the large part of it, at least the bothersome aspect, is largely emotional. There's a ton of stuff that we can actually do. That's just a complete lie. So I want to talk about this myth. Tinnitus is all the same. Everyone's tinnitus is the same. This is another myth. Everyone's tinnitus can vary greatly. The perception of it can vary greatly. There's some people who have tinnitus that they can barely hear it and are horribly bothered by it, and other people have it so loud they literally can't hear anyone talk, like my uncle. He has it so loud he can't hear anyone talk. He even jokes about it. He goes, well, it drowns out your aunt. And he needs hearing aids. He's going to get fitted with a hearing aid. There's other people who perceive crickets, cicadas chirping in their ear. There's some people that perceive it as like birds chirping. Other people perceive jackhammers. There are some people who perceive jet engine sounds in their head. Mine is perceived predominantly as a very loud whistle that, when I first had it, was probably sounded like a dentist drill on like 100, amplified, just blaring, just packed the force of like 1,000 laser beams ready to rip my head open. That's how bad it was. That's how loud it was. It was so loud that just listening to it made me feel like I was going deaf. That's right. It made me feel like I had hearing damage just listening to it. So now the perception of it has changed to where I can barely notice it. So the perception of it can change just because it's another myth is it'll always be this volume or get louder. No, tinnitus does not get louder in the vast majority of cases. Do you have a progressive hearing loss situation? Because if you do, that might make it change or fluctuate. But in the vast majority of cases, tinnitus actually gets quieter. It doesn't get louder. Now, do you have relapses of tinnitus? I've had relapses. So it's went from being really quiet at one point in my life to then, having relapse. Now it was extremely loud. And then it went quieter again. So it's always changing. Just because it's a certain way for a certain period of time doesn't mean that's always going to be the case. Doesn't mean it's always going to be that loud. Doesn't mean it's always going to be that distracting and distressful. So it does ebb and flow. Another thing I want to talk about, another myth. I want to talk about the habituation, talking about the 98% who habituate and the 2% of people. They get a hold of that number and they run with that 2%. They automatically assume that they're going to be the 2% who don't habituate. And I want to just kind of shine light on that 2%. A lot of times, the people who fall in the bracket of the 2% are people who really don't do the things to help themselves get habituated. Okay? They are on the online forums, filling their brain with the misinformation, trolling people's channels who are trying to spread positivity. They get stuck in a very negative, narcissistic mindset, and they're very resistant to any sort of positivity. They're just suffering, and that's just the way it's going to be, and they're resistant. They don't really want help. They say they want help, but at the end of the day, they kind of make excuses, and they're just in this very toxic place. And the tinnitus community online is extremely toxic. That's why, for the large part, by and large, I do not go on tinnitus forums at all. I never go on there. Never really go on there. The only time I talk about tinnitus is when I make videos, when I coach people, and when I read comments. But majority of the cases, I am not talking about tinnitus. That's because there is there's a ton of bad negativity out there, which can keep you in a negative frame of mind. So the 2% of people that don't habituate, I wouldn't even worry about that. Like 98% chance of recovery is so large and so massive that just assume you're going to be fine. That's what I did. I'm going to be all right. Why not? I'm going to be the 98%. I chose to be the 98%. Well, you can decide that. You just be like, I'm going to do all the right things, right? And that is what I do in my coaching calls. Is I show you how can we put you in a place where you can have the best chance of becoming the 98%. The best chance, because I do believe that everyone can habituate. I really do believe that. That's just my personal opinion on it. I'm going to talk about another myth, is that tinnitus is a sign of a brain tumor. This is what I thought, when I first had it. Now, tinnitus can be a sign of something more serious and sinister going on, but the vast majority of cases are tinnitus is just a benign sound, okay? Now, what I do recommend people doing is to put your subconscious mind at rest and at ease, and go get evaluated by a medical professional, get your blood taken, make sure that everything comes back fine, get your ears looked at, and maybe a neurological exam. That's what I had done. And once that comes back is all fine, then your brain is going to be at ease, and you're going to be like, okay, it's all good. I just need to get on my healing path. Give me a call, okay? Get off the forums. Feed your brain with positive information, and you're going to do just fine. So I wouldn't worry about that one bit. So for me, I went to a doctor, and I had a neurological exam done, and they basically said, we're not going to order an MRI on you. Your blood came back fine. Everything's fine. And that really greatly helped to put my brain at ease. So yes, tinnitus can be a sign of a brain tumor, but it's extremely rare. Extremely, extremely rare. And anyone people are fear-mongering you, I would just ignore them. That doesn't mean you should ignore your health by any means. Make sure everything gets checked out. But don't obsess about it. Do not obsess about it, and do not fear about it, because the majority of the time you're worrying about something that is not going to help you. So that wraps it up for this video. There's a lot of other myths that I will probably be tackling in the future, but I'm going to stop the video now. I don't want it to get too long. make sure to smash this like button, share it with, if you know somebody who has tinnitus and they're worrying and struggling with it, comment below. Yeah, and let me know. Visit my links below. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. You can sign up, get some of my music for free. Check the links out below. I look forward to talking with you all later. And until next time, peace out.